welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. We are the Dadley Boyz of What Culture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick here to review everything that happened on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review AEW Dynamite, but also AEW Collision when they bother to have it, Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete. The quiz, of course, on Wrestle Culture. As I said, though, joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to talk about AEW Dynamite, where, well, the elites run the show now.
Sure do. They sure do. Right, okay. My gut reaction before I delve into some detail about what I think about all of this. My gut reaction is I don't buy it, and I can only kind of appreciate the level of detail at a certain level. Mm-hmm. I hate to invoke the vernacular of some of my least favorite people in the wrestling fandom. Let's call them the Thatcherites. Timothy Thatcher. Yeah. The real graps. This just isn't the real. It just doesn't. This is not Punk versus Kingston. This is not the best of Jon Moxley. This is not, for all of that, some of the sort of heightened silliness that went on with the Ghostbusters in terms of real emotion. It's not Page Omega. It's not MJF just bloodying CM Punk. I'm a snake. I don't get the feeling that I did when I experienced watching those high top-end angles, which this is a stab at, this is a swing at. I'll maybe get around to it. It just doesn't give me that feeling of I can completely suspend my disbelief here. It feels like a very thoughtful fake pro wrestling angle. And again, I appreciate the thought that's gone into it. I do. Like them renaming their signatures and finishers to the Tony Khan driver and the EVP trigger. Like, this has been in the works for a long time. I don't think it was a reactionary sort of response to those consecutive 0.23 demos. Clearly, this has been in the works. Clearly, when you've read that, I think this was Meltzer who reported that this new elite of Okada and the Bucks is a passion project of Tony's. It was his idea. So they've collaborated. There's that Young Bucks detail as the Tony Khan's big plan. It just feels like a thoughtful, fake pro wrestling angle that I just cannot engage with on the same level as I have the AEW's like real peaks. And that's the problem, is this is the umbrella program now. This is the sort of thing, like, if you're in on AEW right now, you kind of have to be in on the storyline. And I can only appreciate it without loving it, without really feeling it. And just on Dynamite with the broad thoughts in general, like, really cast your mind back to 2019. How refreshing it was to have AEW Dynamite, how life-affirming it was, genuinely how kind of surreal it was to have something like this. If in 5 years you were told you were going to watch in 2019, if you were in 5 years' time going to watch a 3-hour TV taping with a really quiet crowd, driven by authority figures, with this quite frankly grotesque LED look in your face, you would think it was a WWE product. I'm not saying it was as bad as 2019. Very little is. No. But there are certain vibes that just don't give me the feeling. If you're a listener who likes the positive slant on AEW, genuinely, this is not a naked retention strategy. Stick around, because the last thing that happened on this show, I'm kind of in love with, and I will be very effusive in my praise. But again, I was just smashed over the face like a sink full of water. This is a cold product, and it's really quite difficult to get on board with as an experience when it is just as cold, audibly as cold as it is.
And it's a bit of a role reversal this week, because you wrote ups and downs for whatculture.com about AEW Dynamite. Really enjoyed this show.
Yeah, stick around for Sidge at the end, or just listen to me now, because I thought it was great. Like, I really enjoyed it, expecting like Sidge to bounce in the office and we're like with a buzz of a great Dynamite and then a conversation about that, because despite our lean-ins and stuff, ultimately when a show's just really good, we just want to come into work and talk about it and then come in here and talk about it. You know, we're just nerds for this at the end of the day. And it was Murray I spoke to first. I thought, he's not as high on this as I would have expected on a number of different things. What did you think today? 8 and 2 was my ups and downs ratio. It's the highest, like, I've been on a show probably in a year and a half. I can't remember a time when the gap
Really?
was that wide. Like, not maybe not in feeling, but in terms of like when you write these things up and you look at it's a flawed model, but like typically 8 and 2, like it's probably been like 2021 or 2022 since there was an 8 and 2. You know, there's a lot of like 6s and 5s now, isn't there? That kind of ratio. So measuring on that, I wouldn't say, don't get me wrong, there were a couple of points where I was really, really electrified and inspired by what I was watching. There were quite a few points in the show where I was inspired, and I put this in the article, inspired to fantasy book or reach brew or find things that may not be true. But I often think that's the point. I want to be encouraged to look for those. I don't think you should be sort of like bullied off having your take just for thinking a thing might happen, because that's investment. You know, that's like characters that you like enough to want to see what's going to happen next and want to have you think. That's probably a lot of our first introductions to trying to become like smart mark wrestling fans. When you stop just watching and start thinking, well, who are they going to fight next and how are they going to get there? You know, AEW used to be, and probably still is, the best at that when it comes to the small details. It's better than WWE in that respect, because I like that Triple H is showing you in quite like sort of tall letters and then delaying it and thinking, I thought we were going to get to there. I didn't see this bit coming. AEW with the EVP trigger and the Tony Khan driver are the perfect examples. And I think there are others on this show, but that's the detail that we used to like, the stuff that they were hiding in there that then when it revealed itself, oh my God, like that. The one thing I'll say about this, because I do actually completely understand where Sidge was coming from, despite enjoying this more, and maybe this does factor into the fact that I like enjoy WWE a lot more as well. The authority figure element of this, or the warring administrators which are playing out, is the biggest thing yet that AEW could do from, and I didn't invent this phrase, but I always thought it was very accurate, from becoming a show about wrestling instead of a wrestling show. That was always the thing that defined WWE and AEW. We have long accepted WWE as a show that happens to be about wrestling, whereas AEW is the wrestling show. And like, I'm jumping into the coverage a little bit here because obviously Swerve's on the show really early. But the big thing for me is like when you have Tony Khan opening the show, being the boss, and the Young Bucks saying, oh no, we're the boss. And then there's that kind of like consumes everything. All of a sudden, the champion doesn't feel like the boss. And for the longest time, that was what AEW was. Like, John Moxley was the world champion. He's the boss. You know, you go to work to be the best in that field. You did not care who was doing the paperwork in the back office. And this is quite a big shift that will take some getting. It could just be for one angle, and then they could never address it again. Tony Khan, even as I'm saying it, feels a bit cheesy. Tony Khan gets the company back and win. You know, that's this done. The Young Bucks realise that power ultimately corrupts or something like that. But now that you've done it, there is always that risk that it would always just remain that way. And it will always be about this foreboding sense that at any given moment, somebody could come out with a clipboard and say, let me just stop you right there, and it should never really be about that at its core.
Yeah, one more thing on the broad take before we get into the actual podcast, which will itself take a lot of time. No matter how the idea is applied, right? And you can, like, even I'm all over the place with the application of the idea. Just the idea that AEW is now about AEW, and that AEW is itself is something to fight over, like the identity of the promotion. I don't know. It just feels like I'd just prefer it to be a backdrop to grudge programs and title programs. You know, the fact that it's playing to the gallery almost. It's like our precious AEW is under threat by the Young Bucks. I don't know. I just feel like, well, I don't know. To be fair, they've always had this idea. They've always encouraged this sort of tribal, you're a fan of this promotion, what it embodies, as much as the wrestlers and the titles and stuff. Like, even Cody Jericho was premised on, you've come in, you've won the title, you're a carny succubus, to use the words of Cody Rhodes. It's always been there, but now it's so much at the forefront. I don't know. We'll get into it, I guess.
Yeah, it works quite well, this, because I'm kind of in between the two of you on this. I don't really know how to feel about this show, because I've seen oscillating views all over the place online, and it's been sort of reflected in the What Culture office this morning.
And that's the thing, the feeling just isn't in my gut. I'm unpacking it in my head. I'm wondering where it'll go. I'm bargaining with myself. I'm thinking, am I being too cynical? I just don't get that ultimate rush in your gut of this is great. I just don't get it. Until later in the show.
I got it off the credit sequence.
That was good.
I love that sort of thing. I love the application of that. Like, it took me back to the best bits of a fatally flawed edition of Impact as hosted by the Main Event Mafia. But like, and ultimately, some of these have like really bad endings. But it can be good, like when you just do it in the small doses. And if this we cannot be in 6 weeks' time, like the Young Bucks now, they've got like a stranglehold in this thing. Like you can't do a Dynamite like this every week. I don't think you can't have it so power struggle heavy. I think at some point you kind of need to walk it back a little bit. But I did like getting that as an immediate follow on from the Tony Khan attack.
I was entertained by the show. I was confused by parts of the show, and I was annoyed by one part of this show in the best possible way. But we will get into that. Son of a bitch has done it again. So we come on air as we mentioned. Tony Khan is live via satellite in Jacksonville, saying he can't travel. He's not cleared by doctors, but he's running the show from there. And then the feed goes a bit wobbly, and then eventually cuts out. And Matthew and Nicholas
It looked so fake.
Matthew and Nicholas Jackson go, I don't know what's happened there then, but we've lost connection.
Matthew and Nicholas, howdy.
So looks like we'll be taking over from here, Tony. And people are wondering probably why they weren't fired last week. That's because of their ironclad contracts. They're not going anywhere.
Right. Do we not all laugh at this when the Big Show said it for about a year? Did we all not take the piss? Did it not become a meme?
Yeah.
Did it not feel like this fake workaround when he said it? So what's the difference?
Yeah. Although establishing that exists within the EVP law means that Kenny has it too. And I thought that was a useful thing to suddenly know about the EVPs that we didn't before.
I guess. It's just, yeah.
Tony Khan, by the way, like zero sympathy, what a loser. And again, all the more reason why the Kenny segment had to happen. This was funny again.
Yeah.
I was laughing again. You look an idiot, mate. But good.
How would Tony Khan not know this?
You know what I mean? The wrestling fan, the wrestling observer reader.
The owner of the company who wrote the contract and signed the contract, how would he not know that this could happen and would in fact happen?
Like, he's working from home. Like in a neck, but like he looks an idiot. And like, I'm glad that like very, very quickly on the show, they got away from that being the heat. A pointed effort but a pivot or not, pointed effort to be like, I'm not the guy that the people are going to back.
There's a slight course correct or an improvement later on in the show, which I thought was just on individual terms fantastic. But when the set on Collision, right, well, how are we going to approach this? And Tony Schiavone announced to the crowd next to Nigel McGuinness on Collision, well, how's this going to actually work? And Tony Schiavone says, well, he's going to, dictate everything from home, digital age, easily done via meets. And Nigel McGuinness then wondered aloud to set this up of, well, what if, blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, Tony Khan must have known this was coming. He's signed the contract that the Bucks have. It's just silly. It's thoughtful and silly and fake feeling, and it's just, maybe I'll have to come to terms with what it is and let it play out. I am not just going to say, it's rubbish, it's rubbish, it's rubbish. I'm just giving you my personal gut reaction of it feels a bit fake to me, and I appreciate the level of thought. And look, if the main event segment is any indication, maybe it will get really, really, really good.
I got major vibes of, remember that scene in The Simpsons where Hans Moleman gets left in the X-ray machine? Tony Khan's at home going, hello. On with the show anyway.
I'd like to get down now.
That little kid, yeah.
Anyway,
can I take my neck brace off?
If Tony Khan's unreachable, say the Jacksons. Then the EVPs run the show, and they throw yes to the new Dynamite intro, which features just them, Kazuchika Okada and Jack Perry, basically, which was good.
That's awesome. A really good gag.
And then the new champ Swerve comes out. Prince Nana's dancing there. He says he's wrestled on 3 shows in 1 week. He's the champion the fans deserve. What AEW doesn't deserve, he says, is selfish, greedy, childish, power-hungry EVPs who think they can throw their weight around without any consequence. Again, calls what the Elite did to Tony Khan a bitch move. It's going to be handled eventually, he says. But he's here to learn his opponent for Double or Nothing. Says, whoever it is, wipe your feet before entering Swerve's house. And then the Young Bucks appear on the big screen again and say, it looks like success has gone to your head. You've badmouthed EVPs. You've used curse words. That's a fine.
Got to laugh that in the audience. Nicholas Jackson, to use his God-given name. He's got a great deadpan.
And they do the thing. Your opponent is one of Canada's finest, a former world champion. Here's music.
He's been away for a while.
He's been away for a while. Not Kenny Omega, it's Christian Cage, flanked by the patriarchy. Kill Switch, of course. Nick Wayne and Nick Wayne's mom. Great to see her back.
She got it going on.
Always. Cage comes down. Looks like he's going to cut a promo, but he fakes out and just nails Swerve with it. Strickland fights back, but numbers game as always for Christian Cage. Nick Wayne and Killswitch attack both Swerve and Prince Nana. Cage hit the kill switch on the AEW title on Strickland. Nana got hit with Wayne's World. And finally, Christian grabs the mic and says, there's something you should know. I never forget. He talked about Swerve breaking into Nick Wayne's gym last year and busting him open.
Didn't Christian Cage team with Swerve Strickland after that?
He did.
Okay, but this is before he decided to...
But he was the one that lost the coffin match as well, so that's like costing Christian a trip to the pay window. So.
Well, he said, losing it all in.
He connected with his long-lost son after Wembley, so I guess that's fine.
I guess that's fine. It was a little bit.
It embarrassed Cage losing, he says, and instead of apologising, he went and won the world title. So it's time to pay for those mistakes. He references Swerve's daughter, Swerve, who talked about that on Collision, of course, saying all the sacrifices he's made to win the world title. He says, when I've done with you, she's not going to even want to know you, but she can have a father she can be truly proud of. And he said the pain's just begun. And then Killswitch pulled out some of Swerve's hair. And they make the title match for Double or Nothing official.
Well, good news and bad news. The good news is the thought is still there. Swerve cutting that promo to tee up Christian Cage to do a wild swing at a heel line. Really, really good.
No, we didn't spot it. It's another one of those good AEW things of like...
It's good foreshadowing.
They're really good.
You don't actually see it.
You think the inner klaxon should be going off. Yeah. Family, fatherhood, Christian Cage. Yeah. And yet we were sat yesterday on the preview saying, it might be him, but then it might be Hangman Page returning or Jack Perry. Here's the bad news. Why? He's got a decent answer, his Michael Hamflet, pronoun boy, he being Michael Hamflet. Why, if the Young Bucks are running the show, which they are, I saw the terrible digital effect... Why isn't Jack Perry? I understand that they had a really cool way of revealing that it was Christian Cage with the Kenny Omega tease. Why isn't Jack Perry Christian Cage's Double or Nothing opponent when they can choose anyone? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your idea is
they're saving him for Wembley,
but that's not going to. It's cute. That is cute to do it then, but I don't think it's anywhere near big enough for Wembley.
Oh God, no! Of course it's not. Like, it's Jack Perry. But, like, it's within the sort of fiction here, isn't it? That, like, they believe it's like, we brought you back, you've got this contract, and then you've got everything. You can have the lot, red carpet, and as part of that, we'll give you your title shot when the time's right, It's effectively a cash-in almost, and not of a match, of an opportunity, like of the biggest match you've got. Like
it's another parallel.
Yeah.
The other bad news is that when all of this unfolded... And luckily for this as a program, maybe it was just this Winnipeg crowd who, quite frankly, weren't particularly good or hot, right? Because they're watching a cold product.
Yeah.
So I don't really blame them necessarily. You could hear a rat piss on cotton. You really could. This did not feel remotely like a world title program. So, bad news. Good news is that they will get there. I've got no doubt. Like, Christian Cage is too good at getting heel heat. People do, I would say, really like rather than love Swerve Strickland, but they really like him. This will get there. I'm not watching this thinking, this is going to be a dud, or this has got no chance of getting over because it didn't on the night. I have faith that this will be a really, really strong match in Las Vegas, and B, that they will tell a good story with some really strong verbal performances. It's two guys who really know what they're doing, but this was an inauspicious start.
Yeah, I would say this is one of those matches and programs where we often talk about like the flaw of reviewing something that has yet to even play out properly and trying to analyse how it'll look in 3 weeks rather than how it
I've got
feels.
faith.
Right now I have a lot of faith. Like, it doesn't look or feel like a main event right now, but Christian has proven before that if you look at something like, like All Out 2021, it wasn't really the talking point, but he can absolutely carry the spot. Darby Allin is probably a better example. Was that the main event of Wrestle Dream?
Yes, with Christian Cage.
Yeah, so like Christian Cage knows how to not just elevate his game in the match, but like elevate the program and make it feel like it belongs in the main event. I thought there was we had the debate before the last pay-per-view about if Swerve and Joe could go on last, and I thought that was a valid conversation because Swerve and Joe just didn't feel like the headline attraction of that show. I think they will make this feel like that for Double or Nothing, and there's time to get there. They're both too good. I would also like to see, I don't know how far you go with this, but Swerve, I get why they're doing I've wrestled 3 times, so I'm class. That does scan, but I wonder if they have Swerve revisit the stuff that actually got him over, because it wasn't like winning matches and working really hard didn't get him over.
No.
Being a really horrible, scary bastard did.
Like his demeanor.
Should he pay a visit to the Cage household? Like, to beat up Cage and Luchasaurus, Killswitch, but the first thing, you remember when Christian Cage had his daughter on TV and she was like, get out, I shot you, whatever, and she like runs screaming because like Swerve's like kicking the shit out of her dad. Like, and Swerve's not saying, I'm going to take your daughter like Christian does, but he's just making the point, I can get down in don't forget who you've gone into business with here. Like, I wouldn't mind that.
Like, the template here is Steve Austin.
Yeah.
The template here is Steve Austin. He just got really broadly funny, but he still had the exact same mindset. Steve Austin would never talk about what else was happening on the show or like really sort of overtly suck up or play the baby face. There's a way of doing it. They just haven't really managed it with Strickland yet, in my view.
Both very valid points. There was also a bit of me that watched this and thought, okay, Nick Wayne's Moam aside, numbers game doesn't seem really fair here. You got Swerve and Christian. You got, let's say, Nana and Nick Wayne, but who's going to take out Killswitch? And I've got to say, I thought Christian Cage was making quite a few accusations here. I thought you'd tell me there's a chance.
Swerve Strickland and Rick Ross versus Christian Cage and Killswitch.
Oh my God.
Didn't Swerve in an exclusive say, I will not be alone next time?
Did he?
I think so.
There you go.
I think so. Obviously, they've just quietly abandoned the Mogul Embassy because he can't really be a babyface in a heel stable. So it won't be them, I don't think.
No. Before the TNT title match, no spoilers as to who from the House of Black took this match. We had a video package highlighting the feud between the lot of them.
You're loving it, aren't you? He's absolutely delighted with himself.
Adam Copeland makes his entrance. I'm annoyed with myself, actually, because I had my money on Malachi Black.
Shut up, man, you cock.
Malachi's voice is heard over the arena speakers saying, why fight you now when destroying your mind is so much more rewarding? It was Buddy Matthews who'd have called it. Who'd have called it? Bloody hell. It's a fun match.
No, I don't think it was fun, right?
Okay.
Fun is literally probably the last thing I had with this match. Do a bit of recap. I'm going to be nice to it in parts.
It was a long match, I should say. They cut off dive attempts early on. Copeland finally manages to connect on one early on. That takes us to our first break of the show. And we come back. Matthews spikes Copeland with a draping DDT through the ropes. They both climb up top. Buddy Matthews wanted a superplex outside, but they both hit big shots at the same time and double bump apron to the floor. They tease a count out. Matthews blocked an impaler, and then they hit a double crossbody, and Buddy Matthews is spitting up blood as the ref checks on him. That takes us to another
Did
break.
he blade the inside of his cheek or something?
I don't know what.
I've got a take on this.
We come back. Copeland's getting the 10 corner punches, but Matthews hits a Liger bomb for 2. Copeland comes back. Avalanche impaler off the top for a near fall. Goes for a spear, but that gets cut off with some knee strikes into a jackhammer from Buddy Matthews. He transitions into a crossface, but Copeland escapes via sort of an angle slam, basically. Misses another spear attempt, eats a go to sleep, but Matthews missed the curb stomp. Copeland hit the spear. 1, 2, 3. Post-match, Copeland attacks Matthews again, grabs 2 chairs. He's going to hit the concerto. The lights go out. When they come back up, Sean Spears is in the ring saying, Malachi Black's in the ring.
Yeah.
Telling
That's what's good because it's NXT pilled.
I never said that. He tells Copeland to do it. Matthews says, actually, I want it actually as well. And he goes to do it, but the lights go out and they both disappear.
I just want to say quickly, Sige, I used that exact reference to Sige over the desk this morning, and I want it on record that yesterday I said Sean Spears was the worst character in all wrestlers, so the comparison point is valid for those reasons.
The idea that wrestlers want to get hurt themselves and volunteer for it, it's never, ever, it's not big and it's not clever.
And CTE to trap you.
Yes. It's not big and it's not clever, and worse still, it thinks it's smart. Great. This match was so bizarre. It was really long. The actual, again, I'm going to try saying my gut feeling and then I'll explain things. My gut was, this is taking ages. 21 minutes. That's such a long time. You know what I watched last night? You like this because you always want me to like the Fed more.
It's true. Yeah.
You always think, come on, get back on board. Even go back to the history of the Fed.
Yeah.
It's time to play the game!
Time to play a game. Which WWF match did I watch last night?
You see, based on talking about this, I assumed you were going to say Aleister Black versus Apollo Crews.
No.
Trouble sleeping? Or?
I don't know, man. Like, can you give me a decade to work with?
It's just what did I watch? Bear in mind, you know my tastes.
Yeah.
And you know I have a limited amount of time.
Did you think to yourself, I want to feel what Dave feels? I'll go Bret and Owen in the cage 94 because you never felt the 5 and neither did I.
You're half right.
Okay. Bret
Versus
Virgil.
No, just
It's a good title match.
it is. Bear in mind, my time's at a premium. I only watch good
Jean-Pierre
stuff.
Lafitte.
No, Austin, WrestleMania 13.
Oh, great. It's the best match of all time. Yeah, good choice. It's not very much ever.
And I watched it. And I said, this is just absolutely electrifying.
Every second is
just
perfect.
the first second is great. You've got the absolute... I've got a point to make here. You've got possibly the best ever chair shot that doesn't look disgusting in terms of how Bret positions himself to make it seem like he's not braced for this at all. It's just magic. Yeah. That rugby tackle spear, proto spear to start it all off. Austin's goddamn selling instantly is impossibly great, even before you get to that infamous finish, that incrable finish where
best
it's
low blow ever. The boot in the knackers when he's selling the leg.
Yeah.
And Bret just sort of like crumples.
Yes. Bloody bollocks. But even before that iconic finish, where it's like, in that moment, on repeated viewings, I'll always think, oh, wrestling's real and he's in agony. By every single goddamn time. Even before that moment, in fact, when Bret first starts going after the leg, with that wonderful extra bit of viciousness that gently shows and doesn't tell the crowd, he's becoming an arsehole.
It's gone now. What you loved is gone.
Yeah. And he's showing you it very, very incrementally. Austin's selling. He's in agony, and he's not no-selling, and yet it's still the most dynamic selling performance. It's just an incredible match.
He's growling at him when he's selling.
Yeah.
It's growling, then he's screaming at the same like
he's selling and moving in this weird, perfect harmony where it's like, it's not boring, it's not methodical, and yet you lose nothing of the agony he's feeling, right? It's a masterpiece of a match. And it went the same amount of time as this did. And did this match justify it? Justify its length? No, it didn't. Not remotely. A completely unfair comparison, but it was just what I watched. Basically, those are the
Just explain why you didn't care about Dynamite.
Yeah, I watched those matches in succession. And it really just spoke to me about how, well, listen, there's a way of using your time, and there's a way of not, and that it's still a complete epidemic of long matches going long for long's sake. This did not enough to justify itself, so much so it missed its peak by miles and miles. There were elements of it that I really enjoyed, and I was with it for a long time. Then it went for a longer time, and I just completely zoned out and drifted off. You know what's funny about this? I would be unsurprised if it is transpired, if anyone ever cares to ask, which I don't think people will. Obviously, you'd hope he's okay and he's not suffering from internal bleeding. Has he bladed the inside of his cheek or something? Can you remember, right, was this on the first ever Collision? If not the first, very early in its run. I think it was in the first ever Collision. Buddy Matthews versus Andrade. And it was basically a very similar match layout where it was like, is Buddy Matthews shoot injured?
Yeah.
Or is he just almost so, like, too good at selling this where it's like, I'm in that stage now where I'm kind of distracted. I'm not... There's I don't buy this.
Yeah.
There's I'm completely buying this and my disbelief is suspended. And then has this gone awry? He works, I think, and did so again here, that has this gone awry?
The went wrong feeling is not a necessarily fun one if you don't pull yourself out of it, though, is it?
It's like weird. He's like almost too good at selling Buddy Matthews, if that makes any sense. And it's like, if you can do it that well, just bring it down a notch so you can still have people engaged and not distracted wondering... You know what I mean?
I always think I sat there watching this when he came up bleeding from the mouth, and I was thinking...
Because if you look at the spot that led to it, it seems worked to me just too effective a job.
But I also thought, to be fair, there's not really... Like, you can, pull up a little bit short on a spear or not really drive your shoulder into it. If you're both hitting the ropes and you're going for a cross body, like you're both traveling, there's not much to brace for there.
Oh, it's always one of the best spots.
Yeah.
I think the time was allotted for Cope for partly to do with that because Copeland's adding stuff now from this Cope Open that he does, and he's putting a new move in there each time because, like, well, that's going to be more devastating than what I would normally use, so I'll use that. And I'm sure that part of this selling and part of that being the strategy of the Cope Open in general and what Adam Copeland wants to achieve in this AEW run is why we got the match time we got. It was badly used. Ultimately, the whole thing was badly deployed. I would say, like, you could cut this in half and tell the same story and get every single thing across you wanted to.
I'd say that about so many modern pro wrestling matches.
20 to 10, 10 to 5. 5 to
the Collision main event, the exact same thing. You could have taken at least 5 minutes off that for me.
And it is just Malachi Black thing, overthought. What? Like, it's just, he was going to do it, right? And the commentators are hitting you over the head with, where he's been corrupted by Black Mist, right? No, he's not. Like, that's what he does. He does concertos. He's done them since he's arrived in AEW. He's done them his whole goddamn career. It's kind of defined by it, if anything. It's not the Big Mist, but it is the Black Mist now. So then he's
going to that mist.
He's going to that, right? And
he lives in that place. He absolutely loves it in that place.
Loves that place.
It's his favourite destination.
2 separate
Where are you going? I like to go to Kielder and Crete. Those are my 2 things. What about you, Adam? That place? Okay.
He's got a holiday home there.
So he was going to do it. He was going to do it anyway. And then Malachi Black shows up and says, you know how that thing you're going to do? Do it. And that's what makes him hesitate.
No, I don't want to do it.
And then, Buddy's like, do it. Everything's going your way, Adam Copeland. No. It's trash. And what's, like, Sid, you're good with stuff like that. Like, what's the opposite of a cliffhanger? Because it's like this whole thing, this Malachi Black thing is like, dare you walk down this path of mystery? Well, let me explain your path of mystery. Brody King and Malachi Black are double or nothing.
Yeah.
There is no, like, what could be going on with Adam Copeland next? Those things.
Well, a cliffhanger is so called because you have your fingers on the edge of the cliff, or the character has, or the event, the fingers on the edge of the cliff. Is it going to drop, or is it going to get rescued? Like the ultimate stakes. What's going to happen? You just don't know. Extreme ends of emotion.
Yeah.
This is just sitting down in comfort. You know what I mean?
Sitting down in comfort with the House of Black.
Yes.
Here's a question. As a completely off topic here,
the character's really sitting down in comfort.
As a
become of him
parent, does that work as a strategy?
What?
Like, if you're like, I don't want my kid to put this piece of Lego up his nose.
Yeah.
If you go on, put this Lego up your nose, do they suddenly go, well, now I don't want to?
The reverse psychology thing. It depends on how much of an arsehole your kid's being that day, I suppose. Like, if they've got the personality type or they're in the mood to be like, I want to, like, I'll show you. Because when you started describing that, I was like, well, with one of my kids it might work, yeah, but not the other. So I would say broadly no.
Okay.
Broadly no. I remember The Simpsons having that episode where it's like, right.
I wouldn't even get wrestling psychology from the House of Black, let alone parental advice.
Yeah, if Eric's giving you bother, just like spray him with Black Mist. Like,
you good, or I'll take you to that place.
Yeah, that'll learn him. It's a smoke the whole pack of cigarettes thing, isn't it? And I remember out on The Simpsons thinking, that can't end well, Bart's going to be poorly.
In general, just don't do that, Adam.
Okay. Samoa Joe versus Isiah Kassidy was next.
Oh my God.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
I apologize to Samoa Joe. You are, in fact, the best.
He's conducting the Joe's going to kill you chants. Isiah Kassidy, why are you doing that? Gets his towel and does a dance. So Joe does that pop-up flapjack and you get the from Isiah Kassidy, which has got a pop, obviously.
Watch that back as well, by the way, because it does get a pop before it happens. Silence of which I've maybe never experienced on a wrestling show before.
Oh, shut up, man. Shut up, man. You've watched WWE for longer than everybody else in the world.
This was Thunderdome. There was a point in this show, and I wish I could remember it.
Which you watched and put over.
I'm going to find it today.
There's been quite a WWE shows than this.
I'm going to find it today. There was a point where I heard like a...
There's Indy Hartwell matches that you review every week.
It was either someone's phone on a chair or like a ceiling fan just kicked into life, but it went like that. Like, I'm enjoying the wrestling now. I'm giving this thing an up. Like, honestly, this was an all-timer for quiet. This one.
You watched
this one, honestly.
I cannot wait to rub your face in the next time we review it. you dog.
Remember that thing you were asking about, the reverse psychology? To
Watch Indy Hartwell every week.
So he likes Dynamite more now. So you just have to work.
There you go. Joe lights up Cassidy in the corner with some shots. Cassidy uses speed to catch him with a springboard storing on the ropes. And then Isiah Kassidy, I mean, he basically channeled his pandemic era Montez. All he needed was a WrestleMania. He did that somersault dive and Joe just walked off. He took a horrible bump, but it looked class.
The wrestler brain. Well, I'm doing this then.
Yeah, I know. I can't comprehend it. I cannot comprehend it. All the respect, admiration, and level of disdain.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? Splat. It's an unbelievable spot.
Yeah. I've never even taken a back bump in a wrestling ring, let alone front flip out there onto the floor.
Yeah.
Isiah Kassidy is unbelievable at making people look good.
Yeah.
He came back a little bit with the pop-up drop kick, but then
Shouldn't have.
Then tried a monkey flip, and Joe just went, "What are you doing?" And just got him muscle buster 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I didn't need that last bit of it. Was very Dynamite-y. Give him something more. No. After that, just drag him by the arm and cocaine clutch, like an unnecessary. You don't need to do that. Just get him, just pin him. You don't need to choke him unconscious. But other than that minor flaw, this was a great, great time. Obviously, they've got a plan for Samoa Joe. I don't think they've put him on here for no reason. It's not really a hook, but it's a kind of a hook.
It was nice to watch, wasn't it?
It's just really, a lot of fun.
Really fun.
A lot of black comedy fun, this.
Yeah.
We get the video package of Sky Blue challenging Willow for the TBS title on Rampage, and Willow will respond to that in a short while. And then Orange Cassidy comes out and says, look, he hates all this. He thought Chuck Taylor and Trent fighting on Rampage would have gotten it all out of their systems and they'd be best friends again, but that's not going to happen because Chuck Taylor is never going to wrestle again due to Trent's post-fight attack, him with a pipe, of course, on the ankle, I believe. And before he can go on, he gets cut off. Trent walks out on stage and says, what a surprise! Orange Cassidy making everything about himself, and Orange Cassidy runs up the ramp. He wants to fight him, but he's held back by security and Chris Statlander. And Beretta yells that he's too selfish. And then suddenly Don Callis walks out and whispers something to Orange Cassidy and walks off with him. And Beretta mockingly thumbs ups the crowd. I don't know what was going on here.
I thought this was amazing. I earnestly really, really like this. There was a real uncomfortable feeling in the pull apart that I bought that two friends have somehow fallen out and this relationship can't be repaired and it's sad. It wasn't like that sort of angry, violent energy of like those like overdone, realistically, WWE pull aparts that they used to do with Brock or whatever all the time. This was just, oh man, like how has it come to this? That sort of feeling, which is really effective when you're doing a story about friends that have like something's gone wrong. And then it turned out the thing that had gone wrong, the thing that was making it uncomfortable was Don Callis. Like he's a presence. And they have exploited that and they've damaged that realistically with the way the Callis family's been booked and used and abused as a trope, really. Like if you think about the Sammy Guevara, no way 2 weeks later he's out. You know, like the constant thing with Kyle Fletcher where he's like, the man's got a title and he's still being like negged every week as a loser, that sort of thing. So they don't treat it with enough respect. But this was like invisible hand Don Callis stuff. I was like, I got a feeling in my stomach. I was like, oh, Not now. Orange Cassidy mentally is at his weakest. Not now. And it's not going to be now, is it? It's going to be Trent. It's going to like Orange Cassidy is not going to surrender to the Don Callis family and all of its evils. But the little moments where you feel like he might, I think are going to be devastating in all the right ways. And then when he fires out and fires back, I think it's the answer to my complaint yesterday of like what gets Orange Cassidy up to that level. It's probably beating up the Don Callis family. It's probably just having more of a purpose than he's had in ages. Proper heels to beat up as one of AEW's top baby faces. I didn't see this coming and enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I can't not echo that. I don't have a great deal to add. What I'm very much interested, well, for the first time in ages, like what's Cassidy's direction now as a character? What matches will spawn from this? Will the Don Callis family finally get as good as it kind of should be? That this integration of the Cassidy-Trent feud into this, sometimes Tony Khan can do this and it just feels like he's spreadsheet booking and like making matches to ultimately get to another match. But this feels like, as you said, with Cassidy at his lowest ebb, that's when someone as vile and as manipulative as Don Callis would like smell the blood almost.
I do hope it's not the actual end of Chuck Taylor's career.
No, I don't imagine it is.
I don't imagine it is. I've not listened to like Observer Radio or read any reports. I feel like you'd get some nice tweets. If he was like, oh, it's a shoot, I bit through the pain for one more match just to tie it all off, but no, I am done. I think there'd be a lot of like tributes pouring out on Twitter because he's had some unbelievable peaks in that career.
And I was going to say, I said to you, I really hope that's not the case because it'll be another one of those AEW ones. Oh, well, that's the end of that. Anyway, on to Chris Jericho.
Feels like a way to do the heel turn.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
That's like I stared down the barrel of my entire career and I had to reassess, and I came to the conclusion of whatever. I shouldn't be spending what few times I have left hugging people. I should be scaring little kids again.
I know it's like two versions of things you hate, because not only is it like these guys are hanging out, but the Orange Cassidy and this guy, but like Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay like farming a common bond rather than needing to be enemies is great down the line. That's a cool ass tag team.
Renee Paquette's backstage with the Young Bucks. They say, you're killing it. That's family. That's John. Arseholes. And they say, hey.
She immediately goes to respond, by the way, and they went, I don't care.
God.
They find a new way of being pricks every week.
I think this is going somewhere, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, we've taken up too much TV time tonight, so let's give it to someone else. Jack Perry. He comes in. He says, I meant what I said last week. The only thing I want is what's best for AEW. And you might not be able to see it now, but that's what I did. Tony's the one who made me the scapegoat. It hurt at the time, but I accepted it. It was a sacrifice someone was going to have to make. They all have to. Thanks to Tony, they are now entering a new era in AEW under the Elite.
I don't really have many thoughts on this. One thing I will say, I find myself in this weird, uneasy space between, am I letting it play out or am I bargaining? Ultimately, the gut doesn't say to me, this is great, strap in. Am I letting it play out or am I bargaining or am I undecided or whatever? Maybe, just maybe, the book's saying, I've taken up too much TV time. Jump down my throat.
No, I do it far too much to ever be in a position to bury for that.
No, but like it should be back and forth.
That's right. I've got the soundboard. I'm happy.
Okay.
I got my buttons.
Don't take away my button.
It's the Young Bucks saying, hey, you're taking up too much TV time. Obviously, it was a way to get Perry an interview. But was that a small concession to the WWE brain that we all have of, all right, okay, there's an authority figure. They're going to be on every aspect of the show.
20 minutes at the start, yeah.
Yeah. Is that their kind of coded way of saying it's not going to be completely WWE guys, even though that doesn't really happen in WWE anymore?
Maybe. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. You know, I just took it as the Jack Perry thing and then being...
There's always another level.
Yeah, that's it.
Whether you like the levels or not, there's always another one.
You can keep talking about this if you want, because I don't want to get to what came next. Because I kind of hate myself. But it was Chris Jericho versus Katsuyori Shibata for the FTW title. I had a bloody great time watching this.
Oh my God.
This is the one thing.
It was just a lot of fun.
I hated this.
I was
I didn't want to like it.
I was going in and going, let's get this out of the way, and then we can get to Serena Deeb and what have you. Son of a bitch, has done it again. We literally, you wrote a brilliant editorial about this. Me and Andy did a video about it last week of like, where did it all go wrong with Chris Jericho? And we said in it, and we've said on this podcast and on multiple different things, so often you write Chris Jericho off, and then he'll have a match, and you're like, that kind of justify it, Quake by the Lake, etc., etc. And I thought, this is it. This character is it. This is the
wrestler is it.
Yeah.
Gone.
And they had this match, and I was like, I mean, Katsuyori Shibata with a bin on his head walking towards him is pretty goddamn funny, to be honest. And he's got a bag of stuff. Oh, no, he's got thumb ties. Here we go again. What the fuck? I tell you what. Chris Jericho.
No.
Not the person.
Hey. You all right?
On screen.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you're really positive on this Dynamite. And the one thing I'm like, I really like this. No, not that. So Jericho comes out waving to the crowd. Man of the people, Chris Jericho. His dad's there on the front row. And Taz talks about how Jericho...
Taz was awesome on commentary.
Yeah.
Taz goddamn hard about it, actually.
Taz,
but tells me a thing.
Taz, by the way...
I'm getting red hot.
Get well soon, Taz. He needs new knees and new shoulders. That's insane, but... He's going to try and not need the surgery for that, so we wish him well.
New shoulders.
Yeah.
That's so integral.
That's the thing. Like, imagine, knees is one thing. Yeah. I can, lie down. I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love doing that at the end of a hard day. It's pretty easy doing this, to be fair, but it takes a long time. Shoulders. The hell are you going to do with knee shoulders?
I'm going to need 2 new shoulders.
God bless him.
Yeah.
And Excalibur informs this is Shibata's first ever no DQ match. They start off with chops. Jericho lion salts Shibata's cock and then goes under the ring.
It's a big target.
He goes under the ring, gets a trash can lid and smashes Shibata in the head with it, which is still weird to see.
I love that. So we're still doing this now.
Yeah.
And this is the point where he gets the bag from under the ring, and it's Winnipeg Jets hockey pucks.
Should have seen it coming. It's too early for the tax. And my head was, it's a bit early for this, isn't it? God damn it.
It's a bit of me that also thought, I'm not sure if, obviously tax, terrible, but like the uneven surface of a solid hockey puck getting hit with like an STO onto them, I was like, that's going to suck pretty bad as well, to be fair. They do a chop battle, that takes us to break.
It's an awesome one, by the way.
Yeah.
The rhythm of it's fantastic. It actually wakes up this crowd.
Jericho.
They like the pucks as well because they get it.
Yeah.
They know what a puck to the face feels like. Our Canadian friends.
That got
They relate.
That got Jericho out of a figure 4, as Taz does.
That was amazing. I'm sorry, it was.
Yeah. And Jericho grabs the trash can, puts it on the head of Shibata and smashes it down with a kendo stick. And then Shibata just stands up and slowly, after each kendo stick shot, gets closer.
I
and
can see this is a bit of you, this one.
Oh,
a bit of you.
Brilliant, this. Marching him across the ring, also helped by the subsequent tweets that I saw this morning, which was Taker and Fake Taker, Kane and Fake Kane, Jericho and a person with a bin on their head.
Good.
Which was good stuff. And then I also like the bit, he didn't like take the trash can.
I like this spot.
He just knotted him with it on.
Oh, well, I did like that.
Shibata
What a cool way of doing the Shibata spot that he can't do anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
running drop kick is a
Jericho's
2 count.
Not dumb. He is, but he isn't. He isn't.
Shibata gets a kendo stick each, and they sit down, and he just hits Jericho right across the face with the first shot as well. I think
Let's go. My soul was on fire when he did that. It was. He's hit Jericho in the face with a kendo stick.
because you're like, okay, so we're doing a kendo stick battle, okay, and then the first shot is we're hitting each other in the face with this. Okay, it was just really good. Back and forth, a kendo stick assisted back suplex onto the pucks again from Shibata. Sets up a table in the corner, but gets hit with a code breaker. Dodges the Judas effect, and he knocks Jericho down, positions the table, but out comes Big Bill, who's had a whole week under the learning tree now. Chokeslams Shibata through it, and Jericho covers and wins. Which is exactly what we called on the preview.
You can go first because
I just haven't got much nice to say. It was too long.
It's a bit long.
I hate watching Chris Jericho at like full stop. Like, and again, I keep having to repeat this. It's not the sort of, oh, get him, Shibata. I don't like this, right? This idea that there's like, post 2020, and we knew this long before, but like, it's an easy sort of line to draw. Post 2020, like, more than ever, we're exposed to like the majority of wrestlers, maybe all of them, are bastards, right? And then, despite that, loads of them continue to work because it's kind of a bastards industry. And then one bastard's out there, and I'm just using Chris Jericho, but there's loads of other bastards and loads of times this happens where it's like he's getting beaten all over in a work scenario that he's got complete control of. And there's this almost like tacit instruction of like, yeah, that's one in the bastard's eye. He's doing his job, it's a work. Like I cannot engage with that in that sort of like, yes, I like seeing him like get beaten up. It's not, I'm not even trying to like sort of put Chris Jericho on an island from the other bastards. He's probably like less of a bastard than some of the, I'm not in a bastards ranking. Right now, he's a bastard that I cannot abide, and like I cannot sanction him. He comes out and I want to fast forward. Like off. Like he was wearing the tights and the jacket for the heat and the wave, and I'm like, don't me with your dark arts stuff, you prick. Don't work me, bro. That old forum line. Like I get like angrier and angrier as it's going on. I'm looking at my watch and like sort of. I won't be sort of like worked and moved by it, and it's just like
I was worked and moved by it.
Yeah, and this is it, right? And I didn't expect the praise, but then I should, because this is what he's gonna have to do every single week. It's like he's not got any lives left, so it's like next week it's or bust for Chris Jericho every week. Next week he's rubbish again. It's like there was that one off. Maybe we'll do it again in like 6 months. We probably will. but like it's always bust to me now. I don't think there's no coming back. I don't think with me in a Chris Jericho match. Famous last words. I know it's Jericho, but I don't think there's any way back.
Yeah,
Maybe this is evidence of it because
I was done.
I don't think I can ever find a way back.
Done ski. And I don't go into it thinking, not that he deserves the chance, but I don't really go into it. The vibe's just gone. It has gone for a while. I don't go into it thinking I'm determined to hate this. I'll just take it as it comes. Yeah. I just will. Maybe I shouldn't. Whatever. I took it as it comes, and I just thought I had so much fun with it. On I'll go into why I thought it was a really strong match imminently, but in terms of I enjoyed it as like this political move. I thought he's not only done as a human, as a wrestler, an in-ring performer, as a character, it's all completely dead. What he's doing with this, as you said, Def Rebel pilled theme tune. Now he's got the trunks on. He is preserving the image of Judas Jericho, Le Champion, with the tights and the Judas, so that if this works as a gambit, he can go back to Judas Jericho and people will sing along. It's not... He's stupid and very clever. He's very stupid and very clever as Chris Jericho. That's always the paradox, and this is him being pretty damn clever about it. So I had to just, hands up. You're doing a pretty good job of that. Jericho feels less boring now. He's removed about 7 inches of fabric between his buttocks and his knees. You know what I mean? Like wrestling works in these really stupid ways like that. Is familiar with Arsenal Fan TV or memes in general? There's one where I think Arsenal get beat in someone like who always scores against them, and one of the people who is annoyed that it's happened again.
Harry Kane, I think, in the North London derby.
You f***ing little bastard! He's done it again! I was like, how's he pumped me again? The hockey pucks thing is really good because it's a completely creative take on the age-old bag of tax idea. And I think, you can't do the tax too early. That's a bit desperate, Chris. I know you want to pop arts hockey pucks. It's hockey pucks. And not only is it, as you said, this really for the English equivalent of a hockey puck in terms of this really hard object you play sport with is a corker in the game of cricket. I remember once, I used to play a little bit of cricket, just not with a team or anything, but whatever. I played with a cork, and I was like, I could not just play with a tennis ball instead. He's soft as clots. I was like, okay, but I'd rather just play with a tennis ball. I don't have a head mask on. I'm playing with a cork.
I don't wish to die.
I, honestly, once was just I had a corker in my hand. This is a hockey puck equivalent. Corker in my hand, and my mate was like, pass it to me. I went like that. And he just missed it. It went on his lip, and it burst his lip. And it's we shouldn't, but kids, we shouldn't be playing with this. So that in my head made that hockey puck to the face. You can't do that. But the way as well, it's not only have they done the initial, that's a really cute side gag, and that STO looked like it killed. Because they're everywhere, you've built to the next spot, and you're able to get out of that and transition to another one, shift the momentum in Jericho's favor, puck to the face. Yeah. Amazing. The shot battle was fantastic. It was not unlike, this is much, nowhere near as good, not unlike Jericho versus Roddy Strong. What he's done is crafted the best possible, if you take the characteristics of both men, both performers, both characters, you take the characteristics of both, you've got the perfect Jericho versus Shibata match. It couldn't have gone any better in terms of, from what that graphic looked like to when I was like, Jericho Shibata, to, all right, okay, Jericho Shibata. Pretty really good, actually. What I think is really clever is the fact that Jericho looked completely Dunsky after the Takeshita and Fletcher matches, where it's you can't do your 50-50 shootouts with these athletes. Your head is going like that, bang, off the canvas on those Avalanche Blue Thunders. You kind of keep up. It's getting pretty dangerous, if anything. So what he's done is, I'll work with Hook and I'll get that FTW title, and that's the Plunder Brawl title. Oh, what's that? I could do a shortcut in every match and do my pretty silly, but also quite really vicious looking stuff in the parameters of these new FTW title matches where I can just do smoke and mirrors and shortcuts. He's Chris Jericho. I still don't think it's going to go well.
Yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I still don't. I think there's such a sentiment around him, and deservedly so, of Hamflet's mindset of won't. I got lulled in, and I was impressed, and I hate myself as a result.
Just want to add as well, just getting in front of it. Really, there's a million contradictions that we all make every time. This is the point about like, so it's been a bastard's business. Like, I don't wish for that to now be this thing where it's like, oh, but you like this match with so and so.
Yeah.
You cannot win. Like,
I'm not Paul the Vex WWE.
Indeed. Like, I'm not. Triple H is biggest all time. Right there. I'm not like sort of
probably the second biggest.
Well, yeah, right, yeah. And then there's a long list of like third, fourth. It's just right now I'm finding Chris Jericho impossible to.
It's the convergence
enjoy.
of everything.
Yeah,
with Jericho.
Renee,
the convergence of Jericho.
Don't get my ideas. Renee Paquette's backstage with Willow and Statlander and Stokely. Statlander apologises for last week in the Mercedes spot, trying to defuse the situation. Renee brings up Sky Blue, and Nightingale says, I'm in a fighting mood. Don't think I've forgotten about you, Mercedes, but I'm going to maim you tonight, Sky Blue. Manitoba Massacre.
I bet you Jericho came up with that.
Stokely said he can't complain about Sky Blue's comments about him because Tony Khan's been taken out by the bloody Young Bucks. And at that moment, Renee gets handed a phone. There's a message from the Young Bucks saying Statlander and Hathaway are banned from ringside on Rampage, and if they interfere, Nightingale loses her TBS title.
There's two things I want to mention this, but I mentioned one after a match coming shortly. The Stokely Hathaway being folded into this Elite. He's a bit of an enemy of the Elite now, and it could just be a bit of fun, an excuse to set this stipulation up for later on. There's no interference, all that sort of thing. I think I've said this on a podcast before. Could Mercedes Moné join the Elite?
I would like
I
that.
think that would be awesome. I think the heel turn was virtually confirmed last week, and I think it will play out in the match. Like, I think...
He's the CEO.
Yeah. Like, I think that could end, and I think she'd be a great addition to the group as well. I just thought about that here, but there's a Renee thing that'll come up after the Brian Cage match.
Oh, yeah, speaking of which, it's Brian Cage versus Claudio Castagnoli next. Anything to say about the Willow thing? Sorry, I just completely...
No.
Did you watch Rampage, by the way? I know we're not going to review it.
Not yet. I'll watch the Sky Blue Willow match. You got raves, so I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I saw the table spot in there. Jesus. They go at it straight away. Lariat's back and forth. Neither man goes down. They trade suplexes and they pop right back up. Cage hits a Hurricane Rana. Tried a leapfrog, but Claudio just caught him in midair and hit a tilt world backbreaker. Okay. Stalling body slam, double stomp. Claudio tries for punches in the corner, but Cage sends him to the apron and does that outside in suplex that just looks awesome every time to take us to a break. When we come back, Claudio's just hitting those uppercuts of his. They trade big boots, thrust kick from Claudio. There's a tiger feint kick and a discus lariat. Cage comes back with the water wheel drop, but Claudio hit a pop-up uppercut for 2, and then he does the giant swing into the sharpshooter and submits Brian Cage.
I was honestly just not moved at all by this. It's a sort of, every match needs an atmosphere. We've lived through that really horrible experience. The reminder, not that you needed it, but a match like this, which is just a firework bit, you need an ooh and an ah. It's got no oohs, no ahs. And I've seen big lads do, it's what the Cruiserweights used to do, 1 million times.
Yeah, this
was a pretty flat, forgettable version of it.
Yeah, biggest surprise today, I was so into this. I never saw this coming either. I was like, look at them doing all the bloody moves. Honestly, I was really, maybe it's the reversing with the Jericho thing, where I was like doing the proper arms folded. No, I will. And then it's just like, here they are, like, look, they're doing he's massive. How's that happening? Like, and I'd basically worked myself into this fantasy booking at this point anyway, where I knew Claudio was going to win. He's lost to Swerve, so he wins this match. But if you want I know AEW doesn't massively adhere to the rankings, but if you want to believe at least as a framework here, and by Claudio losing to Swerve, he's not getting near the title, but he immediately wins again to let everybody, to put everybody else on notice. What are you going to do with the Claudio Castagnoli? It then got me thinking that the Young Bucks could just be picking on Renee Paquette because she's maybe the purest babyface to do this management bit with. It's very relatable. We've all had somebody like that where they're just speaking work speak, arsehole stuff, and we all get to be Renee Paquette every time the Young Bucks are horrible.
I'm going to need you to go ahead and work the weekend.
All that sort of stuff, right? That wouldn't have made sense in a wrestling context, would it? Because you'd want to come in. It's Office Space, well, Backlash is on. I'm there. That sort of thing. And it's all been on Renee. And I wonder if in his role as obviously IWGP champion, John Moxley's getting home and they're having conversations because the Young Bucks even ask, how's the family? I don't care. Like that. The family's John Moxley. We know the family. And that conversation comes up and the message gets passed along, fix this, basically. And when we talked about it yesterday, the great thing about Kazuchika Okada is in the AEW where they're actually delivering you the matches that sound really cool and are going to be good, what about Claudio versus Okada at Double or Nothing for the belt? Because he can't fight for the world title, but there is no BCC to speak of. And like, that's a nice way to do I'm sick of the elite, the heels, and just have the proper AEW match quality out of it as well.
I will say, is all over the place as I am on AEW, because AEW itself is like a really uneven product right now. Enough of the trust remains, enough of the original vision remains, that when a wrestler wins a seemingly random match on Dynamite, you do think every time that win matters, so where's that winner going?
Renee's also then backstage with Rocky Romero. What's going on? What does he reckon to the best friend saga? He said he's on neither side. No one wins in this scenario. He's just going to do his own thing going forward. He wants to be the best in AEW, and the only way to do it is by himself. So he wants to start by challenging Kyle O'Reilly on Rampage to earn a title shot eventually. Okay.
He's got like 15 jobs. Wrestler doesn't even need to be one.
Then it was time for the one women's match on the card.
Indeed.
But it's Serena Deeb. Serena Deeb versus Mariah May. She wrapped her up like a pretzel early on. She got stuck and then just kicked her. She's just there like, I can't move. And she got kicked. But Mariah May made a comeback. Headstand, head scissors, and a shotgun drop kick sets Deeb reeling to take us to break. We come back. Back and forth counters. Deeb hits a snap German suplex and a hammerlock lariat for 2. May gets out of a figure 4, goes up top and hits a beautiful drop kick off there. Hits sweet cheek music, but Deeb kicks out. She hits a charging knee, goes for Mayday, but Deeb gets a crucifix. They trade pin attempts. She gets a rolling backslide on May that befuddles her a little bit, but May kicks out into a slam, goes for the headstand, head scissors again, but Deeb gets her into a half crab and just really wrenches back on it, so much so that Toni Storm throws in the towel for the ref stoppage, and as the moment the bell rings, you get the graphic timeless Toni Storm versus Serena Deeb at Double or Nothing.
I was all kinds of impressed with the in-ring and the booking here. Like, genuinely, there was a point at the end where I talk a lot about how it's very back and forth, very 50-50, the ratio of offense on Dynamite, and sometimes they do it for doing its sake. I don't think they did that at all here. I thought it was really, really well measured, because by the end, when you got this really blistering sequence where, like, again, my favorite thing in the world, intent.
Sorry about that.
It's quite all right. There's a high kick.
Like watching Dynamite last night.
That's Serena Deeb. Just has to last second.
Yeah.
She doesn't get her timing perfect. Looks like her head's going to get taken clean off. And it looks like she was hanging in there, Mariah May, not just going through the motions of, all right, it's my turn to do some stuff. It genuinely felt like she was hanging in, and then she made the mistake of going to the well once too often. That led to the finish. So the in-ring was strong, but the way they booked all of this, and it's quite the AEW, it's quite an intricate picture. I thought they've done a fantastic job. So not only is the ultimate medium-term, short-term goal, you're going to get a great match between Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb, who wins and has been kept strong for ages and all the rest of it. So that is going to end up being a great pay-per-view match if it reaches its ceiling and potential. At the same time, you've got the long view to take care of, and that is the Mariah May splits from Toni Storm. Is there anyone better than Serena Deeb at A, giving you a good pay-per-view match in this division, or B, like ruthlessly, really, really hurting someone to the point where you can justify the towel finish? And now you're going to get from Mariah May, presumably, you're being really condescending to me, and it's a spin on the whole idea of, considering how obsessive Mariah May is, at some point that's going to get subverted. Just going to think, you're getting really obsessive over me and protective over me. And I just think it's a really, really sharp way of booking this. You can tell Tony Khan has thought about this a lot and is doing every move imaginable to make it work and feel intriguing every single week.
There's a nice ambiguity to this as well, because Toni Storm, in effect, is also reducing Mariah May's chances of ever getting near her.
Yeah.
So there might be a sense of, like, there might still be that sense
That's
of
an
trying to protect her spot, like she sees Mariah May as a threat, and now she's
And that match told that story almost.
yeah, like by being that patronising, condescending figure, it's actually having an impact on her ability to rise up the rankings. But she can continue to sort of portray this idea that she's in front of it. I have to echo the sentiment on the work. I do wish that audience reactions are important. Noises, all joking aside, noise does matter, and the lack of noise on this show and in a match like this was annoying. I was angry that it wasn't getting like the respect.
This
it deserved.
deserved respect.
It did deserve
like Cage versus Claudio. You've got two people who lose all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Quiet. There was such a pro
Work's been put into this.
Yeah, such a pro wrestling story.
Prototype Tony Storm. She comes out as Tony Storm. She gets beat. Serena Deeb beats Tony Storm, a version of Tony Storm.
Yeah.
And they go, she's fighting Tony Storm. Oh, yeah, really clever.
Just like they didn't do stuff here. You know, like when there's like a weapon in wrestling that might be a bad choice for a wrestling weapon because it doesn't make a lot of noise. You want a chair or a table for the smash.
Remember the bowling ball at WrestleMania 15?
Yeah, right. Like it's visually it's funny, but like you need that thwack or you need that noise or whatever. Like I love when like because wrestling doesn't necessarily like a punch shouldn't make a noise, but we just accept the stomp and the noise and whatever. When Serena Deeb countered off the second like the Stratisfaction Hurricane Rana, there was no bump. There was no like I've got you. We'll go into the floor and I'm in control. And I guess that's why sometimes it doesn't generate the noise, but it was just so real looking and real feeling. I've got you and I'm not letting you go. And unfortunately, that lacked that sort of snap. It lacked the razzmatazz out the ass to like generate a noise from a crowd that weren't giving it up easy anyway. And it was a bit of a shame that, but the work was lush. It's Serena Deeb, isn't it?
Yeah, she's great.
Before we move on, we need to get to the name of the game. Before we get to the name of the game, Sid, though, we have to get to the aim of the game.
The aim of the game is to identify to the hour, minute, and second the first time you hear the first note for the first entrance theme for the first woman to appear to wrestle the only women's match on the show. And as we saw tonight, what AEW often does, and don't worry, we will jinglize this, is that they took the only women's match away at a certain time so that you, the predominantly male audience, can be assured that you don't have to bloody watch this long. You don't have to watch it for that bloody long. Even though it's possibly the best thing about AEW right now, it's still treated as this thing that they feel they have to do because it's 2024, guys. You can't not me. Everyone will just be me, make loads of bloody noise about how we aren't doing it properly. It doesn't feel like a passion project, hence why there's only one match at this part of the show, almost invariably. We do it to underscore, italicize, and put in bold that aforementioned thought process. And if you're thinking, bit of a mouthful, this situation, why don't you jinglize this thought process for me? And this is how I perceive the AEW thought process when booking the women's division. Don't worry, guys. When the women come out to play, the main event ain't too far away. So that's the aim of the game. It's not as good as yesterday. Pull back up. And the name of the game is Only the One Match on Dynamite tonight. Only the one match is on TBS tonight. Roy Orbison.
You got a good Roy. Yeah, you got a good Roy Orbison. The big O.
The big O. Love a bit of Roy May. He's just a great singer.
Yeah, there's a real haunting quality to his voice. And I don't mean it that way they would put on like a W.H. Smith advert for a Coldplay album. I mean, like, he sounds like he's a dead man that happens to still be able to sing. Not the dead man. Like, is he dead?
Roy Orbison.
Yeah, like, he's dead now, isn't he? Like, but when he was alive, he sounded like he was dead. There's a real, like, rattling quality to his vocals.
Like, I've told you the David Lynch thing a million times, haven't I? When he wanted to get In Dreams for Blue Velvet.
Yes, yeah.
So, good news, there's a really haunting off quality to your work that I think would fit into this. And Roy was like, what?
I'm a crooner, aren't I?
Love Roy.
Shout out as always to the Panda Blair himself, Adam Blair at Adam Wilton 4, and Jose Palomares at the Ho 11, the guys who always take care of the
data.
Thanks for this sort of thing. Sid, do you want to take us through our guesses in descending order?
Descending? I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, I will. Wait there. Let's get my phone up. Let's get my notes. Descending order. Michael Hamflett, 1 hour, 15 minutes and 15 seconds. Moi, 1 hour, 19 minutes and 25 seconds. Adam Wilborn, I don't know you from Adam. 1 hour, 23 minutes, 45 seconds. You learned how to count yesterday on the preview, and it looks like you've actually done it as well.
I've got my buttons.
Yeah, told you. 4 correct guesses.
When people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yes. 4 correct guesses on the year for me. 4 for Hamlet, 1 for Sige. Still lots to play for, though, in 2024.
Me.
Renee Paquette's backstage before the Kenny Omega segment. Congratulates Adam Copeland. You all right? Says, yeah. Kyle O'Reilly walks in and says, if you need any help against the House of Black, I've got you back. He's going to thank him, and then he realizes Kyle's looking at the TNT title and says, hey, eyes up here. And says, good luck against Rocky Romero.
Speaking of haunted Roy Orbison qualities, Kyle O'Reilly's got one, hasn't he? And these two guys, I think they have shared vacations in that place. I think they tell you, should we take the kids? Oh, we'll get together, it'll be a bit easier. Yeah, we'll do babysitting one night, you can do it the next night.
It's one of my least favourite things. Because it's like, it caters to people who like to think they're cleverer than they are. And I'm thick as pigs half the time. But it's like, oh my God, did you see that? Staring at that belt for 3 seconds. I think he's signalling his intention. Is this going to be a foo-head? Hope so. Kyle O'Reilly looked like Homer Simpson looking at Maud Flanders' tits in that episode of The Simpsons. You know what I mean?
Which belt do you want, status-wise in AEW, Kyle? The one at the bottom. And it's like...
see that one coming.
It's like Vancouver, isn't it? It's like the big hometown match for Kyle O'Reilly. Yes.
No, Mr. O'Reilly, no! Do you think Kyle O'Reilly wants a title shot? Copeland was funny. I hope you improv that because he was taking the piss out of how on the nose it was. Hey, eyes are up here, buddy. Adam Copeland's lessons in subtlety.
2 seconds to air. Ask me if I'm all right. Yeah, you got it. Are you all right, Adam? Yes. Yes. I'm no detective.
I don't think he is.
I don't think he's quite there.
These NXT guys know how to do one thing: stare at belts and stare at their hands. Am I right?
Right.
I'm breaking their ACLs.
Did he not even live his own WWE life? I just don't think people are going to believe that I'm going to be dark brooding and crazy. Missed me. Yeah. That'll get me there.
Right, big closing angle to the show is Kenny Omega's return. Justin Roberts gives him the big introduction. He gets a huge hometown beb.
Huge beb.
He gets the mic, says
he's contrast.
He says he's never been good at talking about injuries. Talks about being diagnosed with diverticulitis, spending 10 days in the hospital and being told basically he was 24 hours from dying. He wanted to get it fixed up quick, told he needed surgery. That might leave him needing a colostomy bag for months, if not for the rest of his life. He wanted to avoid surgery, but that also means he's got basically a time bomb in his stomach and any blunt force trauma could potentially kill him. He gets a bit choked up here. So he had to stop watching AEW because his hands had started to shake. He was scared for the first time in his career and he felt like a coward. He thought maybe he was going to come out today and explain that he had to retire. But then he turned on AEW and he watched Dynasty and he saw Swerve make history and he saw Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson put on one of the greatest matches he's ever seen in his life. He wishes that he could say he was happy, but then his hands, the shaking, the tremors, they got worse. And then he thought, actually, am I really afraid of being a wrestler or am I shaking because of the withdrawal? He needs to be back in the ring. Living is being in the ring. Being the best is what fuels him. He hates that it's been forgotten. He's been forgotten as the best wrestler in the world, and he made a promise to himself and the fans. This isn't over until he exhausts all options, even if it's a 1% chance, even with a colostomy bag. He says, speaking of bags, let's talk about two others.
Great line.
Matthew and Nicholas. They've embarrassed themselves more than ever, he says. They're free to do this as EVPs, but let's not forget, they're not the only EVPs. He might have been fired from the Elite, but he can't be fired as an EVP. So until someone says otherwise, a part of the power in this company belongs to the best bout machine. And then the coin drops, Kazuchika Okada walks out, they get the holy chance, goes face-to-face with Kenny Omega.
What's the button say?
Oh my God. 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 Oh my God.
That visual before AEW even existed sold out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I know.
And then one of them wasn't even on the show, but that was it. The mere idea that would one day happen again in North America like most famous venue in the world. It's like, yes, we'll go with that. We'll see that. It's such an amazing feeling to see them together.
Omega brings up their rivalry in New Japan. Says give him a few months and they'll settle it in an AEW ring. Okada says, I'm sorry, Kenny.
Trios match, Wembley Stadium. See you there.
Okada says he's sorry, but he's the best Bout machine now. And Jack Perry flies in, attacks Omega from behind. Okada throws a chair in the ring. Perry takes out security that tries to get involved. But Omega's recovered, hits him with strikes, hits him with a snapdragon. But he's clutching his midsection. But he's going to hit Jack with the V-trigger. As he hits the ropes, though, he gets tripped by Okada. That distracts him. That allows Jack Perry to get a chair shot into the stomach. The Young Bucks do the thing that they did last week, run out from the back. Whoa, guys, chill out. And, of course, they grab Omega's hands even, hit him with the EVP trigger. And Okada's about to hit him with the Rainmaker when FTR run out to make the save. And the Elite bail to end Dynamite. And then on Rampage, they tip Kenny Omega off a stretcher, the poor bastard.
99.99% good news. So I'll get to the 0.001% bad news. Dax Harwood doing his gimmicks of, I might jump. I might go to the other side. That AEW social media team's pissing me off. And then, throwing up the X on the Collision when Punk was revealed to be fired. Now he's the mascot for AEW. He doesn't wash with me at all. Does not wash with me one bit. I wish he'd gone with another team. But I will let it play out because my broad take on this, right, is that if this whole thing is a vehicle for this version of Kenny Omega to exist, this whole power struggle, or maybe I'll be with it, because people have argued since October 2, 2019, that this is how Kenny Omega should have been presented all along. Maybe I've done some bargaining with Kenny Omega's AEW run over the time, which is ironic considering people tell me I'm way too harsh on AEW right now. I have enjoyed virtually every single thing he's done, some of which I think I'd put up there with the best work of his career in terms of like Belt Collector, the Hangman Page match, just how much thought he put into everything. And then he comes back after taking all that time off, the Trios title. I really enjoy this, Omega, and maybe I'm bargaining because you think you put your top stars in the top positions, that's what you do. And they've arguably done that once, and that was when he was a heel. And if you look at his drawn record, pay-per-view, some of his quarter hours and all the rest of it, like the first time I truly got really annoyed with Omega, and as I said, I've maybe been bargaining with a run at various points. The one time I got truly annoyed was like last year when he was betrayed by Don Callis, and then he just never really vocalized it, and he never like cut that traditional babyface wrestling promo. And I understand why he didn't. He's got a unique approach to storytelling. It's lost on a lot of people, quite frankly, and I don't mind saying that. But there's a time. Every story demands a certain performance or whatever. And when you get betrayed, it's time to bring the fire verbally. It's time to just really go trad. When you've been betrayed, express your feelings and go after. He never did that once. And I was like, come on, Kenny. Sometimes you got to play the simple pass. You know what I mean? To use a football analogy. Play the simple pass. Yeah, and it was absolutely incredible. It was exhilarating. This version of Kenny Omega, you felt like, oh, come on, dude, come on. You are the best. You're better than Ospreay. You are. I sometimes think on your best day, you're better than Danielson. Certainly, you've had better big matches. God, come on, prove it. Come on, Kenny. You're my favourite. Come and prove it. I was just wanting to run through the wall, a brick wall through the guy, and I thought like he did such an incredible job of like, I can understand why people don't like Omega. I can understand why people laugh at him sometimes, even though he's my favourite. People should be less precious about things. He's got an affected quality to some of his promo work. Very anime at times is the comparison. Him doing trad babyface stuff here was absolutely out of this world. I loved it. He should be the guy. And I was just in the idea, obviously he's just on a Snapdragon, which by the way was that little extra length that I didn't think he'd go to. I just thought he'd take a punch to the stomach. Watching him do a Snapdragon after he said that was more exhilarating than most Snapdragons he's ever done, precisely because he knows when to do things and how to set things up. He's a genius. He has to be the guy. Him doing trad wrestler stuff, I don't think it's beneath him. I think it's something that he needed to start doing a while ago, quite frankly. Just some of the basics. This was the best basic Kenny Omega you could possibly hope for. I want to run through a wall. I want to see Perry versus Omega. I want to see Okada versus Omega at Wembley. I want to see Omega do a babyface title reign for a year. The genius of this is I want to see every version of Kenny Omega finally being at the top, and they've told you might not even come back at the bottom. You might not come back at all. My emotions are all over the place. They're incredibly effective. I'll be basically refreshing for updates on Omega for the next month before he actually does, in fact, hopefully come back.
Yeah, this was exhilarating stuff. I share every sentiment Sidgwick's there. This was the first time I've ever, in 5 years, where, and I appreciate there are times when you can't because somebody else is in that spot, or you've got to be the heel, or you've got to do what you feel is best for your character and for the
first year
company.
was all built to make 2021 as effective as it was.
Yeah. And I think, Sidge was always in front of that, and I think a lot of people just wanted it quicker, or wanted it now, or wanted it to feel more familiar, or all those sort of things. This was Kenny Omega being that, like, John Moxley sheriff figure for the first time, and it was electrifying.
Yeah, it was so good.
It was absolutely electrifying. I felt it instantly. Like, it's a shorthand, but I actually think it's a useful shorthand. Was where's New Japan Kenny? Because he even came out to New Japan, and there he was. So it's not even like a time frame or a different period of his career. But that isn't necessarily the most articulate way of framing it, but a lot of people have used it. And it's made sense in my head. I think we just have a different one now. It's it's just Kenny Omega choosing to using more sort of traditional methods, just choosing to do it because it's sometimes the right thing to do for the role you're in or the position you're in the story. This comfortably, I think, told you that he's coming back, and to get excited about it, it's whether it was when he sorted the injuries when he came back the last time in the trios matches, or this now, he can use it.
He's so good at leaving that percentage of doubt.
Yeah, he can absolutely use it.
Even in the build-up, was the arena just announced me.
Yeah,
this is obviously a master plan to get him back.
You can start getting excited.
Am I bargaining?
You can start getting excited, but the doubt is what helps that in a way, because you want to see it and you want to feel it.
If people are a little bit anxious, I'm going to give you some copium because I want it as well. I remember just before he came back to do the All-Out run, when he came in the compression vest, and then at All-Out, when he had the sparkling gear and the tan, and he looked like he was fizzing about the ring, and those amazing exchanges with Hangman Page. He hopped on a stream, no tan, pale as it can get. He made his hair look rubbish. I was I don't know if I'm sick of these setbacks. I don't know if I can do it.
Is that the week before that reveal? He'd had some of the vest torn away, and you could see this pale body on
he had kinesio tape. He went from compression tape to kinesio tape, and it's he hasn't given you the abs back.
Yeah.
And it's he's making it visually look like his body's falling apart, and he looks as pale as he ever has. You got the sprain tan out.
And again,
ejected.
It's exciting to think about all of these potential matches and outcomes and all this sort of stuff. But as well, Kenny Omega now is this babyface who they might try and beat down and down and down and down and down, then get saved by Hangman Page doing the exact same thing. And that's great too. That's ultimately I think as good a pitch as Sidge certainly made for that Page Swerve stuff. That moment has now probably passed for a while, and you need to get Hangman Page to come back that resembles this when Kenny appears to be at his lowest ebb, or he can't manage the numbers game or whatever it is. That Page return that they facilitate is going to be this again. And then what matches they're teasing you there as well, and it's that same thing we all felt when they first formed the Elite. And now you've seen it blossom. It is a plan. It is nothing's an accident here. So yes, we all pissed ourselves at the Tony Khan attack, but it was a small ingredient of a much bigger picture. I have flipped 100% on thinking the Punk footage was the right thing to do, because in fact what it was an element of this story, not maybe it was a little bit of a grabby, people are going to lean in here, but more importantly, it was a part of this story, not just a grabby ratings ploy.
A stunt with substance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let us know your thoughts on AEW Dynamite, either in the comments section below or on X at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there. You can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilmer. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. As I said, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. But for now, this has been the Dynamite Review. My thanks to Hamflett and Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.